There's finally some respite for Sri Lanka as the country battling an economic crisis is soon going to strike a loan deal with the International Monetary Fund. According to the media reports, Sri Lanka has reached a preliminary agreement on an emergency loan with the IMF, and a formal announcement is likely to be made on Thursday. Staff-level agreements, which as per reports have been signed, are typically subject to the approval of the IMF management and the executive board, after which the recipient nation gets access to the funds. The debt-laden island nation had sought up to $3 billion from the global lender. However, the amount of bailout money being granted is yet to be revealed. The reports of the loan deal have come in the backdrop of an IMF team's visit to Sri Lanka that had been extended by a day owing to the ongoing discussions with the Sri Lankan authorities. The IMF team reportedly held talks with the Sri Lankan government officials on Tuesday night to address concerns on the political front. The team would now hold a media briefing at the central bank on Thursday morning. The reports on the IMF deal came after the Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe told the parliament that talks with the IMF had reached the final stage. The country's shares jumped and sovereign bond prices rose soon after the leader's announcement. The country of 22 million was plunged into a political crisis last month when then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa fled after a popular uprising against the economic hardships. Rajapaksa was replaced by six-time Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, who also heads the finance department and held several rounds of talks with the IMF team. Sri Lanka has been battling a severe economic crisis as COVID-19 pandemic disrupted the country's tourism-reliant economy and slashed remittances from workers overseas. The rising oil prices, populist tax cuts, and a 7-month ban on imports of chemical fertilizers devastated the agriculture sector, adding to the country's woes. Let's go straight across now to our correspondent, Dasuni Otada, who's tracking all those developments on the ground. Dasuni, what are you picking up at this point? What is the latest that you can share with us on this loan deal?
Well, yes, Molly, like you pointed out, Sri Lanka has in fact sort of reached a preliminary agreement with the IMF. Now, keep in mind, an IMF bailout has been more or less the only way out for Sri Lanka, given that Sri Lanka has been battling a really severe economic crisis, one of the worst it has seen since independence. In terms of public sentiment, clearly this has given some form of a positive and a hopeful outlook to the public, which is why that the Colombo Stock Exchange today also ended on a positive note soon after hearing this confirmation. Now, we have to also keep in mind that this is still pretty much a preliminary agreement, and like you also mentioned in your report, is expected for approval by the board of the high authorities here at the IMF as well. So as of right now, with this announcement, there seems to be some form of hope, some form of positive outlook with the public as well, provided that the IMF will also closely be monitoring Sri Lanka's economic outlook as well as its political stability, Molly.
Dasuni, let's also talk about the hardships the people have been facing on the ground and how important this bailout and this loan deal really is when it comes to the crisis-hit nation.
Absolutely. We've been covering this story for months on end, and we have seen how the common man, the average citizen of Sri Lanka, has been deeply impacted by this crisis, starting from skyrocketing prices of goods, rising inflation, and just recently Sri Lanka did announce that they will be increasing electricity tariffs by an average of 75%, which is surely a significant amount, especially to those in low-income households. That's not all. Water tariffs are also to be increased from the 1st of September. So it is clearly a lot, especially for the common and average man, to handle. and provided that we also did see over the last few months power cuts that at a time extended to more than 10 hours on certain days, and also unending lines of fuel queues, which positively so far has reduced thanks to a QR system that was put in place.
Darshini, we're leaving it there for the moment. Thanks very much for being here and helping us better understand the latest that's coming in from on the ground. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.